question in capitals. Otherwise, the chat flies by past and we may miss it. We try to keep track of it. And Brenda does an amazing job. Also, Brenda would love to have a helper if Brenda still needs a little more time. She describes a helper as someone who probably gets even more social media karma out of it, because many people who volunteer to be the chat watcher for questions and successes, her assistant through the hour that we're in, will often end up not on the meeting soon after. So Brenda, is that enough time or should I add a little bit more?
You did perfect. Yep, I got the YouTube stream. It was a Ustream when you put the words together, a Ustream. I got the Ustream, which you may not be familiar with the YouTube stream going. It's in the background. I see John is asking, will a recording be provided? Yes, you can watch this in a playback on YouTube. By the way, my intern, Julia, is on the call. She will serve as our helper for today. And great. Julia, if you wouldn't mind grabbing the link from YouTube, dropping it into chat, and also the link to, there's a YouTube playlist. So the playlist, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but like on YouTube, a playlist, what that means is after you watch the first video, like this video, it'll show you the next video in that series. So I have a playlist for all of the Friday VIP job seeker office hours calls. So you can watch them kind of back to back. And I've had some people say, when's your next podcast? Or I was on your podcast. And it made me think about turning this eventually into a podcast, which I might do for all of the videos that are public on YouTube. So if that is of interest to you, go into comments and say, yes, that's interesting. I would love to listen to the podcast. Some people are just not YouTube people. Other people they prefer podcasts. Now, when we do like this, share the screen stuff, it may not work out perfectly. So probably in the show notes, I'll still have like, here's the video to watch it later. But let me know if that's of interest to you, converting this to a podcast eventually. I am going to be doing another podcast focused on helping people who are enthusiastically self-employed, coaches, consultants, speakers, and authors with business tips. That'll be coming up probably in the next 2 months. But I was thinking on my walk the other day, I'm like, maybe I'd make this a podcast too. I'm going to ask the group and see what you all think about that. So as we are getting started, I want to say good morning and welcome to all of you. I want to see who's in here, and I'm going to just quickly say hello to each of you, which helps me to see who is with us. So Sue is going to be one of my all-stars helping out with some questions today. Al, I'm going to make you an all-star as well. I see Al Smith is going to be the all-star. Al N, you're joining us as well. Good morning, sir. Alicia, Angela, Brett, David M, David S, Dean, nice to see you. Debbie, Elizabeth, Esmeralda, nice to see you back again. Gina, Julia, who is my intern, is going to be helping out a little bit in the background here today. And then we have Janelle, Jean, Jeff, nice to see you again, sir. Joey is joining our all-star lineup. I don't give him the option. I just make him an all-star. There we go. All right, Joey, let's see who else we have in here. John, Jonathan. This is the John Club today. We got a Jonathan G, a Jonathan H. So Johns are winning today here. Jorge, Katie, nice to see you. Kevin K, and we got two Kevin Ks. Kevin Kane and Kevin Keen. So we got two Kevins in the house here today. And we have Lillian, Linda, Marnie, Mary, Michelle, Rachel, Scott, Susan, TLVF, and Wendy. Good morning and welcome. I know there'll be others that will be joining us here today. What we're going to do now is I'm going to have the all-stars introduce themselves. If you wouldn't mind raising your hands real quick, just so I can see that I've caught all of you and made you co-host to help out with the group. I think I did the right. And we're going to go in this order. We're going to go Sue, then Al, then Joey, then Mindy. I think Mindy, sometimes I know you can't do the introduction, but I'll see if you can do the introduction. Okay, so we'll go Sue, Al, Joey, Mindy. Did I get the right ones? I think I said the right order. All right. If you could please introduce yourselves and then I'll take the floor back. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm known as Sue Mentors, and I'm also the mentor with Pom Poms. You'll see them hopefully in the successes and other opportunities today, because I like to celebrate wins and remind us that small wins lead to big wins. And on to Al.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. I'm Al Smith. I ran for president. No, I don't. That's an old one. Mindy will fuss at me. I'm a career coach in the Atlanta area. Been doing this for about a dozen years and have written a couple of books on the subject. One was actually an Amazon bestseller. And we'll go from here to Joey.
Thank you, Al. Good morning, all. So my name is Joey Himmelfarb. I am retired right now as a salesman. I've been selling for about 30 years. I have written a book about selling yourself and helping job seekers sell themselves by taking what I've learned about the art and science of selling. I'm also on these calls on a regular basis to be your Jiminy Cricket. So I will sit back and listen. And if I hear you being negative or beating yourself up, I'll chime in and try to shut you up, smack you across the face, give you a pat on the back, if you will. Just trying to make you positive and upbeat. So happy to be here. I'm happy that you're here, unfortunately, under these circumstances, but we're going to try to do our best to get you out of here. Next, I think, is Mindy.
Thanks, Joey. So I'm here to support job seekers. That's what I love to do. That's my passion. And that's what I do every single day. I host a group called the Accelerators, which is a wonderful community of job seekers. And we have events every single month. This past week, we just had an event about freelancing as an opportunity that you may want to consider. Sue was on the call, and a bunch of other people from this wonderful group were on the call as well. I just opened up a YouTube channel, thanks to Brenda for the inspiration, so that all of the videos from our accelerator calls from going back almost a year, I think, I have now up on my YouTube channel. So if you are interested in subscribing, that would be amazing. And then you get to see all of our videos, even if you miss the events. I'm here for you. If you have questions, please share. That's what we're here for today. There are no stupid questions. And just pat yourself on the back for being here today. You're taking one step that a lot of other job seekers are not doing. So kudos to you, and kudos to Brenda for having us and hosting us every week.
All right. Thank you so much, Mindy. Great introductions. And I call these folks my all-stars. These are part of kind of the job seeking, supporting community, whether they are career coaches or career strategists, resume writers. Sometimes I bring in LinkedIn coaches as well to help. And they help me help you is what they do, really. And I like to give them the floor at the beginning to introduce themselves. By the way, for all of you who are joining us, I want you to introduce yourself in chat. If you have not already done so, go into the chat right now and introduce yourself. If you've already introduced yourself, I want you to read through what everyone else has put, because you never know when you're going to come across an opportunity that matches and that can help someone in the group. Did you know you got some work to do? You're not just here for yourself, but you're here to help others, because this is your team right now. I want you to look around the room. And part of the reason I created these calls is that I've been in career transition myself before, not by choice. And it can be very isolating being in that situation. And you feel like one day you're a part of a team, you're all helping each other out. And the next day you're told you're not part of the team anymore. And then you got people that turn their back on you, right? And they never talk to you. Some people do reach out and, hey, Brenda, how are things going? How can I help you? You know, that type of thing. But I always felt like, where does the team go? I still want to be part of a team. So I created this to create a community of fellow job seekers. I call this Friday VIP Job Seeker Office Hours. Friday, because we do it every Friday from 10 to 11 Eastern time. If you miss it, you can always watch the YouTube, or if you can't get up early in the morning enough, you can watch the YouTube. VIP, I want to touch on this for a second, because I invited someone recently to my call and she said, well, I'm not an executive. And I said, well, I said, it's open to anyone. And she said, but you said VIP. And I said, oh, and I added a little bit more of a description on the webpage to clarify that. When I say VIP, you are a very important person. And in this group, it means that you are a job seeker at any job title level. We've had college graduates coming in here, never had a job before, coming in as a part of the group. We have people who are experience rich, age 60, age 70. We had one gentleman, and remember David a few years back, he was like 86, 87. He found a job, by the way. So when you are done working, you decide when you're done working. They don't tell you when you're done working. But we have had people who are managers, directors, VPs, specialists, coordinators, like every job title level has really been represented inside the group. So when I say VIP, it's that I feel that you are a very important person to me and to the community, regardless of your job title level and employment status. That's what I mean by that. So anyone is welcome to come inside the group. So Friday, VIP job seeker office hours. And I call this an office hour because it's basically like if we were working together, my virtual office door would be open to you once a week, where you could come in and ask questions. You can learn from and get inspiration from fellow job seekers. You can network with each other. And that's part of the reason I said look through chat, because let's see who is introducing themselves. If you're not yet connected with them, please invite them to connect with you. You can do that during the phone call. And by the way, when you are dropping your introduction into chat, I want to make sure that you include the HTTPS at the beginning of it. And I'm just going to show you this as an example here. I'm going to put mine in here real quick with and without it so you can see what I'm talking about. If you do not include the HTTPS inside of the Zoom chat, then you're going to notice it's not going to be blue and it's not going to be clickable. Okay, so let me just do this with and without, trying to multitask as I go in here, and then I'm going to hit send. Okay, so you can see right now, if you put your LinkedIn URL with the full address, including that HTTPS, it's blue and it's clickable, and you can actually click on it from chat and go and join it. And I did see a few people, Eleanor, you probably just missed my description on this, where if you see Eleanor's in there, it looks like actually you have it, but you have a typo. It looks like you put a little character in the middle of it and it's not clickable. There was a few other people that were doing this as well. Gina, as an example, didn't have the HTTPS, so it's not clickable, which it just makes it a little bit more effort for me, Gina. You know what I mean? Like now I got to like copy and paste it and open it into a new window. So this is a really great way of networking with fellow job seekers. When you go to their profile and invite them to connect, I highly recommend that you include a personal note. It can be something as simple as, hi, Jonathan. We were both on Brenda's Friday VIP call today. Let's connect on LinkedIn, and then sign off with your name. Okay. So just reminding people where you met them is really important. If you ever come across a profile like mine, that if you visit, you don't see the connect button, you see follow instead. Of you all notice that? There's a little workaround. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, what you'll have to do is, and this is not just me, but this is like others as well, is you'll have to click on the more button. Okay. I have set up creator mode, which means my default button is follow. So if you want to connect with me, you got to click on the more button, and there's a little menu underneath that will either say connect or personalize invite. And then just mention that you're on today's phone call and I'd be happy to connect with you. All right. So the way that we do these calls, we start off with our introductions from our all-stars, and then we're going to move into questions and success stories from the groups. Now, if you have a question, I'm going to ask that you type in the word question, and I'm just going to use an example and type the word question in all caps, followed by the question. So I'm just going to use this as an example. Question, do you like coffee? So my question, the word question was in all caps, and then I typed out the full question in there. Okay, so that's an example of how I want you to use chat to ask questions. After you've done so, I want you to go into the Zoom menu at the bottom and click on raise hand. I think if you click on reactions, you'll see the little raise hand, and that lets me know you put a question in there. So it helps me to find you into chat, and then I'll call on you if you see your hand raised. Okay, so do that if you have a question. The question could be related to using LinkedIn for job search. It could be related to a resume question. It could be related to age discrimination during the job search. It could be related to I'm still working and I need to look for a job. What do I do on LinkedIn? It could be I just got laid off. What do I need to know now? By the way, we've got a really great checklist called Do This Now. I'm going to ask Julia to drop that into chat. It's a free download, all kinds of great tips if you have been recently let go, laid off, or are currently unemployed. Some good resources are in there. So do check that out in there. So that would be questions. We're also going to cover success stories. If you have a success story, just type the word success in chat. SUCCESS. I feel like I'm in a spelling bee when I say that. And a success could be I got a job. See ya. I'm not going to be on the group anymore, right? It could be I've got an interview coming up. I'm excited about it. It could be a recruiter called me. It could be my LinkedIn is starting to finally gain traction. Maybe because you bought my book, hint, 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 and you're starting to employ my LinkedIn techniques. By the way, Julia, go ahead and drop the book link into chat right now. But it could be whatever you deem to be a success on your path of finding a job. We'd like to hear about that. I think it's important, don't you? That it gives people hope. And I will ask you to share your success story, and I'll ask you to tell us, what is something you learned from the process that you'd like to share with other job seekers. Don't be shy. This is your time. If you do have any questions, you can ask questions. Just raise your hand after you do so. That will help us to identify you inside chat to pull those up, and then do share your success stories. We'll end at 11-ish. And you all know, if you've been on the call with me here before, When I say 11-ish, that means because sometimes I go a little over if I've got time available at the end, we might go to 11:15. Thank you, Al, for holding up that book. That's so nice of you. All right. By the way, my name is Brenda Meller. I am a LinkedIn coach. I do not work for LinkedIn. I work for you. I work for my clients, and I help you to get a bigger slice of the LinkedIn pie. And I'm a huge supporter of the job seeking community, helping others, paying it forward, and helping you all to follow along in those same paths as well. All right. So Kevin has his hand raised. Kevin, do you have a question? Go ahead and unmute yourself if you could.
No, I don't have a question. What was I got your a note from LinkedIn from one of my fellow people who Bill Indy, I think.
Oh yeah, Bill. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Is this the time that I can talk about my career transitions, or is that later in the?
I'm sorry that you can talk. Oh yes. Thank you. Remember, I told you I would forget because my memory is not really good, and I said, remind me when you come on the call because I'm probably will have forgotten by then. So yes, Kevin, I invited by way of Bill. I said, why don't you come on and talk about what you're doing? And then I'm going to make you one of the all-stars to help us out with some questions today as well. So please go ahead and tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, thanks, Brenda. Well, so good morning. My name is Kevin Keene. I'm currently in transition. I'm looking for a position as an IT project manager. I work in I live in the greater Philadelphia area, but as a volunteer, I serve as the vice president for my career transitions. My career transitions was 2000 and 2005 to help people in usually the greater Philadelphia area navigate through the process of career transition. So our motto is, you're not alone. We meet the second Saturday of every month, except for August and December. And the purpose of our meetings is to have people learn new techniques, tools, and skills for their job search. It's a free service, thanks to our volunteers and the Penn State Great Valley campus. We're currently doing virtual meetings. We have been for a while. We have, there's a combination. We have an actual meeting, which is, as I said, the second Saturday of every month, and also a new member orientation. Now, those were live, but since the pandemic, they've been virtual. We have a virtual new member orientation, which gives all sorts of tips and tricks for people who have just gotten to the job search, as well as a speaker. Our next speaker is Cheryl Bonner, who's the director of Penn State Career Services. She's speaking on, strangely enough, LinkedIn, the new prospectus for 2023. That's on March. March. I'm doing the math in my head. It's March 11th. It's at 9:45 a.m. Eastern time, and it's usually about 2 hours. We have virtual networking. You can sit and afterwards you can talk to either the speaker or to other members as well. That was, I think, about it. I will put a link to the website in the chat so that if you want more information or learn more, you can do so.
Perfect. I was just going to say, Kevin, I don't know if you put the link in chat already or not, but if you could do so, that would be awesome.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And Kevin, and thank you and welcome, by the way, to the group. If you'd like to help out with questions today, I'll ask as we're hearing questions from the group, if you want to raise your hand. Right now, if you could lower your hand so that I know that we've called on you for this part, and then I'll pull you off screen. Let me just remove you from the spotlight here. By the way, Christopher Johnson in the house. I saw him. He came into the room quietly. Christopher, can you introduce yourself? Are you able to say hi?
Good morning. Let's see. My introduction, Christopher Johnson with Calm Clear Communications. I help speakers, trainers, and authors produce virtual events that are engaging without the stress and hiccups. So if you need assistance with that sort of thing, let me know. I am happy to help. And if we are not already connected, my contact information is in the chat, so feel free to reach out and connect with a personalized note.
I'm trying to do the Christopher Johnson thing, which is pull me back up as you're doing. And I'm not as smooth as you, Christopher. He is the Zoom go-to guy. And whenever Christopher's able to, he comes on at the beginning. He does do the the vamping as I get the YouTube stream going and reminding of all the important reminders of things. But I'm delighted to see you, Christopher. I know that you've got some part-time work you're doing on Friday mornings now. So I wanted to make sure to give you a shout out. And by the way, if you do, if you find an organization that's looking for some help with virtual event production or even in-person event production, reach out to Christopher. He's the voice of TEDx Detroit. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but great guy. Great to be a part of the group, and I'm really happy to see you on here. All right, so we're going to start to move through success stories and questions now. I'll remind you, if you have a question, type question in all caps in chat, then raise your hand. You're using the raise hand function inside of Zoom. So if you go to the bottom of your menu bar, click on reactions, and you'll see the raise hand on there. And I see Al has done so. And Al, we'll go Al, and then John has a question. So Al, I can't remember if yours was a question or if it was a success story, but what's going on with you, sir?
So I have a question about LinkedIn.
Mhm.
In LinkedIn, a friend of mine was posting something, and I was wondering, is it better to repost or to share with comments?
Okay.
Confused about both of those. So I'm not sure what works best to get more impressions or for more people to follow you, those kinds of things.
Okay. So is the assumption here, is it somebody else's post or is it a company page post? What are we talking about here?
It's somebody else's post.
Okay. So first, I'm going to kind of take a step back from here and just remind everybody, I don't work for LinkedIn. I'm an independent LinkedIn consultant, but I've been doing this for a couple years now. Been heavy on the platform since, I know it's been at least 15 years using this. And I've been watching the algorithm, and I have a network of LinkedIn trainers and coaches, and we're always comparing notes on things. Sometimes LinkedIn tells us some things about the algorithm. Other times we kind of piece it together based on our own experiences. And what I will share with you on the whole is that LinkedIn prefers new original content. That means it's always better to do a new post with your own thoughts on things and tag people in than it is to do a repost or a reshare. Okay. Now, having said that, Al, if you are never doing any posting on LinkedIn because you're hesitant, you can't think of things to post, and clicking on the repost button is easy for you, it's better to repost than to do nothing at all. So there's probably like a spectrum of what's the best thing to do if you want to get the best reach with your posts and the most visibility for yourself. But doing nothing at all is probably on like the very far side, right? And then doing the best thing, which would be creating new original content that engages, is probably on the far side of the other spectrum. And then there's a variety of things you can do in that scale in between. Now, let's say Sue Griffey does a post on LinkedIn, and I love Sue. I'm a big supporter of Sue. I want to help that post to get more engagement. And I would think, well, I'm going to repost it, or I'm going to share with my thoughts because that's going to help Sue out because I'm pushing it out to my network, right? Actually, what happens is you get an algorithm penalty when that happens. So it's better to go into Sue's post and add a nice, thoughtful comment, maybe end with a question so that Sue replies back and the conversation keeps bouncing back and forth, because the new original content created by Sue is typically going to get better reach than a repost or a share with thoughts. Now, I say typically because let's say that there is a super celebrity influencer who happens to repost it. Well, then of course it's going to get more traction. But the average mere mortal, like all of us, it's better if we comment on Sue's post than it is to do a repost or share with thoughts. By the way, repost, all you have to do is click on repost and it pushes it out. You don't have to do anything else. So that's like the simplest thing to do. Share with thoughts. If you're going to do either one of those, a repost or share with thoughts, my recommendation would be to do a share with thoughts. I would tag the person in there, even though they should get notified that you're reposting it. We don't always. So I would tag them in there. And then I would also probably message them on LinkedIn and say, hey, Sue, just want to make sure that you saw I reposted your most recent post. I would love it if you could jump in and add a comment to it. So that lets them know. And then it also kind of invites them to come back and participate in on the conversation. All right, Al, how'd I do? Was that helpful for you?
Yes, very helpful. I've heard other comments about this, but yeah, this is good. Thank you.
Yeah, good. And I was talking to someone about this yesterday. Don't try to game the algorithm. And I hear a lot of people are like, how do I become viral on LinkedIn? How do I, get more traction overall on the platform? Don't worry as much about that. Like, think about what are your goals for using LinkedIn. If your goals are to find a new job, let's focus on activities that are illustrating your expertise that are keeping you visible, that are creating social media karma with the right people who could possibly provide referrals to job opportunities for you, don't worry too much about the numbers. Likes and reactions and followers don't necessarily get you the job. Okay. Your content can help to build up that visibility and make those connections that can help to give you a job. Okay. Great question. Thank you, Al. All right. Next up, we had John. John, you said you have been out of work for a little bit. And I think your question was about how to adjust the gap in your resume, if I'm not mistaken. John, are you able to unmute yourself and clarify on your question? John? I'm not sure if he is or not. I'll give you a second. You'll click on unmute. Can you hear me, John?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can. All right. So tell us a little bit about this situation and what was your question?
Well, I had to take care of some personal matters, and before I know it, close to a year went by when I started resuming my job search, and now it's a year and 2+ months. So that's a pretty big gap on the resume. I'm not sure how to handle that. I have been doing some volunteer work and some studying to get my skills current, but that's a pretty big gap. What do you suggest I do so that that doesn't work against me, so that I can get a job and I get more more interview requests?
All right. Thank you, John. Thank you, John, for asking that question. And I'm going to ask my all-stars, if you have any advice for John, to please raise your hand now. I have some initial thoughts, and then I'll pass the mic to Joey. But John, I want to say this first, because I was talking to someone this past week, and it inspired me to post about this recently too. The past 3 years have been weird. Like, right? They've been really weird. We had a national pandemic, an international pandemic rather. The job market has been crazy. Things have been really weird. So in a normal circumstance, you might feel like, gosh, a year is a long time to be out of work. But when you've been unemployed a year during the pandemic, or 2 years during the pandemic, or 6 months during it's kind of like, well, yeah, there's a lot of people who are out of work right now. There's no longer the stigma that there was once about being out of work, especially for longer durations, especially during a pandemic, because the job market has changed. Interviewing has changed. Your visibility as a candidate has changed. We're now starting to hopefully come out of this, and we're getting more visibility of in-person events and coming to in-person interviews and things like that. But what I heard you say was you haven't just been sitting around, you've been doing some volunteer work. So you've been keeping yourself active. You could certainly put that volunteer position on your LinkedIn in your experience section to show what you've been doing and how you've been spending your time. I'm going to pause there. I see Joey has his hand raised, then I'll go to Sue, and then we'll go to Mindy. Go ahead, sir.
So, everybody knows that question that we're all supposed to answer in an interview, and that is, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Well, anybody who answered that question in 2019 got it wrong, because just like Brenda said, the pandemic has thrown everybody for a loop. So, John, you said that you volunteered and you've been active and you've been studying and you've been keeping up your skills. Yes, that's what you do. That's what you say. You don't hide behind that. You haven't been sitting around, assuming the fetal position and sucking your thumb. You've been active. So you haven't been working, but you've been working and you just haven't been being paid. So there's nothing wrong with that. So don't be shy. Don't be afraid to say that, and don't be shy about it. And, it's better, like I said, than sitting around. So those my 2 cents.
Thank you, Joey. All right, we'll go to Sue and then Mindy.
Great, thanks. Everything Joey said can also and should be translated both on your resume and in your LinkedIn profile as work. Mindy's nodding, Joey's nodding, everybody, we all agree on this. Volunteer work, unless you do it just once, that's real work. You're transferring your skills, you're helping the organization meet its mission. So put it in there as work and explain not so much what your contributions is, but what you're doing and for how long. Give the context, numbers of hours a week or a month or whatever. Also, the second point I want to make is if you're studying, and I learned this from someone early in the pandemic, she made her own title for it called Career Advancement. And she listed all the ways she was keeping up with, Al's nodding, yep, keeping up with what's going on in your industry. You don't have to say, oh, I had no skills in this, so I learned this. Talk about what you're learning and how you're applying it and keeping the knowledge current. And finally, Brenda, maybe you can remind everybody of the websites that I learned from you about how you get a logo there so you don't have the gray blob when you make up a title for what you're doing on LinkedIn. So that's my advice.
All right, Mindy, thank you so much, Sue. That was great. Mindy, go ahead.
I think they covered it all. I'm not going to take time. I just want to make sure that you reflect the things that you have done onto your LinkedIn profile. Super important. And I would definitely encourage you to put something in the LinkedIn profile that showcases you. So you could be a freelancer, you could be a consultant, and talk about lots of the transferable skills that you've been working for, that you've been gaining over this past time. This is not time lost. This is time that is enormously valuable to you, and you just need to understand how to transfer that to your next job.
Oh, I'm off. I'm muted myself again here. I think there was one other person that raised their hand. Al, did you raise your hand too? Did I see you?
I did, but most everything has been covered. We got a great panel of all-stars.
Okay, all right.
So.
Thank you. Okay, John, was that helpful for you?
Yes, it was. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Well, thank you for asking the question. I'm going to keep us moving along here. I want to see if there's any other success stories or questions coming into chat. Julia, I have lost track. So do you see anything in here you can help me out with chat? Any questions or success stories?
I have Kevin Kane with a question.
Okay, Kevin, do you have a question for us? Oh, I think Kevin, we had already, Kevin Keene, we had already talked to Kevin.
The next one was Dean.
Dean. Hey, Dean, how you doing? Question for us, comment, success story, what you got going on?
Yeah, sure, Brenda. It goes back to the posting. Can you tag a group besides just a person? Can you tag a LinkedIn group? And if you can do it in your post, can you do it also in a comment?
Good question. So groups are not currently taggable inside of LinkedIn. You could test it out yourself to see this by yourself. But let's say, for example, you wanted to invite people to come into, we actually do have a private unlisted group on LinkedIn. Julia, could you drop the link inside chat right now while I'm describing this? I'm going to share my screen, pull up LinkedIn. Let me just get out of here for a second. And if you couldn't tag the group, but you could potentially put groups in a link in a public post. Now, don't do it with our group because our group is private and unlisted. What that means, private means it doesn't show on your profile. None of the activities or anything like that show publicly on LinkedIn. And unlisted means you can't find it unless I give you the link. And I'm going to drop it into chat. I'm not sure if Julie did that, but I'm going to put it in here again right now. So our group is a place, it's kind of like our flagpole outside of the house. You guys remember I talked about this a couple weeks ago, like our kids in school, they have like fire drills and they're told to like have fire drills at home too. And you should have a meeting place outside of the house, not on your property where people could meet. So this group is kind of like our flagpole, like the flagpole a couple doors down where we're going to meet at. This is a place where you can share resources with each other. That's why it's called VIP Job Seeker Resources. I put by Meller Marketing so that you know it's the right group in here. You can share resources with each other. Every week on our Friday calls, we will share the Zoom link. So if you can't find it in your email, you can go inside the group and we will put it in there. You can find it pretty easily. You can share details about job fairs like Rich did. He saw a post from someone else and he shared that inside the group. You can share announcements like Kenneth, for example, he's one of our all-stars. He's now got a part-time role with Lee Hecht Harrison, and he's announced that inside the group. I find sometimes posts from people like Mary, and I will share them inside the group as well. So going back to your question, Dean, no, you cannot tag a group in a post on LinkedIn, but you could post about the group and put the link to the group in there. For this group, though, I don't advise that you do so because I like people to come into the call first. And then when people come and visit this group page, this is a private unlisted group, and I have to admit you to come inside. It's kind of like you have to knock on the door, and then I look and see through the people who you are, and I decide whether or not I admit you into the group. I don't want people coming in and swarming you. Sometimes we get, financial planners or people that are trying to build up pyramid schemes or try to get you to buy a franchise business or all like, no. That's what this group is about. This group is about job seeker resources. And I want to make sure that the right people are coming in here for the right reason. And it either looks like you are unemployed or if you are somebody helping to support the job seeker community, that I know who you are and I know what your wishes are for coming inside the group. So if you happen to join the group, like Jonathan, let me see if I can approve you. Sometimes I get like error messages like Jonathan. Nope, he got in. Okay. If you have already joined 100 groups on LinkedIn, I'll get an error message saying the person can't join any more groups. If I have the time, I'll message you and tell you that. But if you're seeing that you're pending in there, just double check how many groups you have and then message the group member, the group owner, and they can help to admit you inside the group. So long-winded response to that, Dean, no, you can't post or you cannot tag a group in a post. Did that answer your question for you? I think we
Thanks,
did.
Brenda. Yes, it did.
Great. Awesome. All right. Elizabeth, I see you have your hand raised. Question, success story. What's going on with you? You have to unmute yourself. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Success story. So, yay. I know I'm jazzed. So I got offered, I think last week I talked about, I had potentially two possibilities, and one was contract work and one was direct hire. And I chose the direct hire, and I was in the unique and position that I didn't think I'd be in, that where I had to turn someone down for a job offer. And it was uncomfortable, to accept a position and then say thanks, but no thanks. But I did it in an email, and I tried to, oops, sorry, my screen is bouncing. I tried to finish well, because they spent a lot of time recruiting and talking with me. So they definitely deserved the thanks, but no thanks email, and appreciated everything they did. And because I have found that it is a kind of a culture of ghosting out here in the job search world, which is really hard to keep our great attitude and our hopes up, because you can go through multiple interviews and then you don't get the position and they just evaporate. And I feel like it's important for me that I don't do that, just because that's the culture now. So that's one little piece, because it's hard to keep it was hard for me to keep the motivation up when I would put so much into every phone call and every interview. So anyway, I'm really excited. I start Monday, and I have a couple, I'd love to share a couple things that I did that helped me. And then I have a question for you. So
go ahead.
Okay, good. So the first thing that I did, that I told myself when I started on this, and I was laid off in late fall last year. And I made every phone call. Well, first of all, I didn't know, so it worked in my favor, that I didn't realize recruiters weren't hiring managers. They're very important phone calls. But I was like, I had an interview, and finally my friend, was like, no, that's not an interview, but it's a screening. But I treated them like it was an interview. And because they were phone calls, I was able to have all of my paper spread out with my star stories, my story about myself. Like it would be hilarious if they could see, but it was all taped up in there for me. And that was part of my practice. So eventually, when I got through to the hiring managers, I knew so much of that. I had told it so many times, but I had practiced as if it really counted with the hiring manager, with those recruiters. And I think that really helped my comfort level and my confidence to know what the heck I was talking about, and to see when I would stumble with the recruiters, so I could go back and kind of tweak it a little bit. And when I would do interviews on Zoom, also right now I'm looking because my screen's down here, but I really practiced, and I would tape, like, here's this. And I would tape notes up above my screen, right by the little camera, of just my few pointers that I wanted to remember, so I could see them during the interview. Yeah. And then sometimes you got to put a little card behind it so it doesn't like fall over in the middle of the interview. But whatever prop I could use, Zoom and not interviewing in person, I would use. And I feel like it was a great way. It was a great hack for not being able to be meeting in person. So
that's great.
Yeah. And then one other thing that I learned from you guys, well, I learned so much, but I started getting calls from recruiters or emails or whatever from recruiters when I really went out there and asked my friends one by one, please endorse me for my skills. And I moved my top 10 skills, and I said, you can endorse me. I know you guys did it. I said, you can endorse me for whatever you believe in, but the top 10, if you feel comfortable, please endorse those. As soon as that tipped the scale, and you can talk about that algorithm, that made all the difference in the world. And then the other thing I did is I researched companies, and I reached out directly to the hiring manager on LinkedIn and told them what my what my motive was to connect with them with a personal note. And that's how I got my final interviews. So
There you go. That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, so many gems in there. And it's like a lot of these things we talk about, and I know we didn't like invent these concepts, but sometimes we remind people of, you know, the fact that you don't just apply to the job posting and then sit back and wait and keep your fingers crossed that they're going to call you. Like, make connections at the company, go and follow the company page, make a comment on a recent post, make yourself familiar. So they keep going, Elizabeth, that name sounds familiar. And then they go, wow, she's an engaged candidate. We should bring her in. And then try to invite people to connect with the company. Are they all going to accept them? No. Some of them will. And maybe don't try to connect with everybody in the department you're going to work in. Maybe if you're going to work in the marketing department, try to connect with people in sales or customer service or IT, because you can start to get common connections and maybe get some introductions inside of the company. I feel like you're almost like you've been elevated to coach now. Like, Elizabeth, you've learned so much through the process. I'm like, she's giving, you know, she's giving back, and I'm excited for you. I'm looking forward to seeing the announcement on LinkedIn. Reminder, when you do make it public, to put, if you want to notify your network, just make sure that you put it the start date of the month that you add it to LinkedIn. So let's say hypothetically you're starting in
Monday.
March, but you don't add it until April. But just hypothetically, like, let's say you're not going to add it until April, put April as the start date so that you get the benefit of that notification going out. Now, I typically tell people, it's up to you when you want to post it on LinkedIn. I would probably check with your employer first to see what is their communication process. Some people get really excited out the gate and they post it on LinkedIn even before they've started. Could create a little awkwardness, especially if your manager hasn't informed the team that they've hired someone for the position yet. I always like to check with your manager first, see if there's a communication process they go through. And even if it were me, I'd wait until I had my first paycheck, like 2 weeks in, to post about it, just because
These are
every
all
now
my
and again,
questions.
right?
Yep.
Just doesn't work out. So yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Those were my questions, is just the strategy behind it and the timing. So yeah, and I want to believe it, but there's, you know, as a job seeker, as you know, just like I wanted that first paycheck, and then I'll, you know, feel better. And there's something, I'm going to put a note in there, and there's been lots of books in your book or Joey's books. But this book has really helped me. And I'm going to put a link in because I just found a YouTube link to it. And it's called, can you all read it? It's The First 90 Days.
The First 90 Days. Yeah.
And this is so helpful. And I started reading it before I even had an offer. And now I need to get on it and really read about it. But I just saw there's a YouTube station, and it looks like it's maybe an interview with the author. I don't know if it's good or not, but I thought I'd put that in there because
feel free.
Put it as a
Drop it.
DM by accident to someone. I'll post it to the group.
No problem. All right. Thank you, Elizabeth, and congratulations. We're super excited.
So
and you know, you're welcome to come back, but it sounds like you may not need to come back to the group, but you know, keep us in mind as you go forward and be successful in your career.
I learned so much. I want to be able to come back. Okay.
Oh, we're glad to hear. We do have an alumni group, by the way. I'll invite you to come into that alumni group too. All right. I'm going to keep us moving along. I'll just remind you, if you have a question or a success story, please use the raise hand feature. It helps me to see who you are. And by the way, the raise hand inside of Zoom is in the bottom menu bar. If you don't see the bottom menu bar, hover your mouse around the bottom and you should see a little reactions menu. And then you have the ability to click and raise hand like I've just done right there. There we go. All right. So Susan, I see you have your hand raised. Question, success story, comment. What do you got for us?
Kind of a follow-up and a little bit more. So first thing I want to do is a shout out for a new person who's on the call today. I just direct messaged her and told her I was going to do this. Her name is Catherine. She's from Ottawa, Canada. She's in sales, and hopefully she'll drop her link and everything in here. I met her a few weeks ago, and she's been great support as we're both going through this. So that's the first thing I wanted to do. Next, I wanted to ask a follow-up question. I just submitted, this is crazy, my first application yesterday, after knowing that I'm going to be unemployed for a while. It's just that feeling where I had to be like 60% on for the job, and everybody's been so great in helping me get my LinkedIn where it needs to go. So I was really happy about that. Here's my question. I know someone at the company. We used to work together. He gave me the name of the recruiting manager and the hiring manager who the position would directly report to. So after submitting the application through the online portal, I sent an in message on LinkedIn because the person doesn't allow direct messaging, I guess. I don't know. So I'm a premium, so I did an in message. Should I also get her personal or her work email from my friend and send her an email message. Like if I don't hear back from her today, should I email her directly on Monday through her corporate email address? And or should there be any interaction with the hiring manager who's actually the person hiring the job?
All right. So you have I'm just want to make sure I understand correctly. You're applying for a job at the company. You know somebody that works there, and this person said, here's the recruiter and here's their contact info. Have that person gave you their contact info as well?
He told me he could give it to me, but I
Okay,
didn't ask
so
for it yet.
what I would do if I were you, and I'm going to have the all-stars, if you have anything to offer to this as well, please raise your hand. If this person is in on the company, rather than reaching out by getting the information from this person, ask them if they would feel comfortable reaching out to the recruiter or the hiring manager and getting permission to make an introduction, or would they feel comfortable if you sent them your cover letter and resume to send it to them? It's always better if it comes directly from someone they know versus someone they don't know, even if you name drop and they're like, hey, Brenda Meller sent me. Well, how do I know if you know? I mean, I've had people name drop before and they don't really know you. So it's always better to come from somebody known inside the company, or for them to request permission to do the email introduction than you kind of going blind through that. Joey, I see your hand is raised. Did you want to add anything to that?
As we say in Brooklyn, you want to grease the skids. And so you don't want to go in and make that connection. You want your buddy to make the connection for you. So now it's a warm introduction. So Brenda, right on. Absolutely.
Very good. All right. Thank you. Well, good luck, Susan. Sounds like it's a promising opportunity. And it's always better when you have an in at the company, because they can help to move your resume from the bottom of the stack and bring it up to the top of the stack. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for you.
Thanks.
All right. Perfect. Okay. So let's keep us moving here. We got about 12 minutes left to go. We'll do one more, and then I want to pause and just ask something briefly of the group as well. We'll go Janine next. And then I have something I want to share with the group. So Janine, did you have a question, success story? What's happening with you?
I have a question. I have been exploring parts of LinkedIn and found something called a focused inbox. And I just wanted your thoughts. Now that I'm following more people and getting more active on LinkedIn, my inbox is filling up, and I'm wondering, what should I look out for? What will I miss if I choose focused inbox? Is there anything, are there downsides to it or not?
Yeah, it's interesting because I have it myself, and I'm going to show this to you up on screen as I'm describing this. And sometimes LinkedIn rolls out features and they explain how to use them. And other times it's like we kind of have to figure it out on our own. My understanding is the focused inbox are people that you interact with regularly. And I'm not sure if these are people that are connected and following, or how they identify going into focused versus other. I know the other, it feels to me almost like sometimes a junk or a spam folder, or we've only lightly communicated back and forth. There's really hasn't been the back and forth in terms of dialogue. I don't really feel like this helps me, I'll be honest with you, Janine, all that much. You can certainly check it out, toggle back and forth. But even for me, I'm a heavy user of LinkedIn. And when I toggle back and forth on here, it's not really, at a first glance, I'm like, I don't know what it does one way or another. Now at the top where I click on search messages, this is actually a little bit more helpful for me because LinkedIn doesn't have a way that we can star messages or favorite them to come back to them later. So sometimes I'll reply back to messages right away. Other times my away message, which is a premium feature, by the way, will reply for me. So I don't know that I haven't responded to their question. So when I go to this little drop down menu thing next to search messages, I can click on unread, and it will quickly find people who've messaged me on LinkedIn that I have not responded to yet. So to me, that helps. Sometimes I can, like, maybe I accidentally sent someone to my archive or my spam. I can go quickly click on that filter, go back into there, and then remove them or, unarchive them from there. But for me, I don't really find a whole lot of value in the focus versus other. I don't know. Joey, I see you have your hand raised. Did you want to add anything to that point? No. Okay.
Well, so do you use archive for messages you want to save, or is that more like a trash folder?
Archive is kind of like messages I don't need to see anymore inside my inbox. So it helps me to clear out my inbox. So let's say, for example, I'm going to click on this message from Kelly, and I should have already been accepted. So usually what happens is I do at least 2 messages back and forth. An invitation, I personalize the note. If they accept, I message them back. In this case, she sent me a note. I've messaged her back. After she responds and I follow up, I would probably click on the 3 dots and archive it. And that just tucks it away so it doesn't sit in my inbox anymore. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for LinkedIn to improve the inbox function, the messaging
Right.
function. I just personally don't feel like Focused and Other does that. I'd rather have everything and then starred messages so I can come back to the starred messages
Right.
later. That would be more helpful for me. Like Focused and Other doesn't really help me, you know.
Can we make requests to LinkedIn to advocate for?
We certainly can. And what I have heard is the more people that request either a feature update or the return of a feature that they've taken away or something, the more likely it will be something they put in their product queue. I don't have the link handy for the product feature page, but I will find it and I'll put it inside the LinkedIn group the next time I have it. And Jeanine, I'll tag you in that post so you can see that.
Okay, yeah, I'd really like to have a starred messages feature because I want to save some, and I appreciate the benefit of your experience with this. Thank you.
Yeah, I wish I could help you more on that, but unfortunately, LinkedIn's kind of clunky sometimes. All right, we've got about 10 minutes to go here, and we may stay on for a few more minutes longer, but I want to show you guys something. I was thinking about this the other day. We've just wrapped up my Boot Camp with Brenda program, and we've been doing weekly group coaching calls, which are really great because it's small group coaching. They have the chance to have some more interaction within the group. And I was thinking, maybe I should offer something like that to folks that have been on these Friday VIP group calls. And I want to just kind of test and ask the question. Now, these Friday VIP calls are always going to be free. They're always broadcast on YouTube, so they're public. They are recorded, so you can access the playback on that. I'm just thinking, what if I were to offer something like a small group coaching focused on LinkedIn for job search? Is that something that you would be interested in? And if so, I'm kind of thinking it'd be a 1-hour session twice a month. I would, let you know what the dates and times were for that. And it would be like an ongoing membership type of thing. And I'd have 2 price points. And this is where I want to hear from you. Is this something you'd be willing to pay for? And I see it as folks that are involved in the VIP job seeker group, that'd be 1 price point. If you've been a boot camp member before, it would be a reduced price point. So just hypothetically, let's say it is, $15 a month for VIP job seekers. And maybe it's $10 a month or $5 a month for boot camp with Brenda members. So people who've been involved in my program before. I'm just throwing that out. I don't know what the dollar value would be on that. Is that something that you would be interested in? And I'm calling this small group coaching because it would be private only for group members. It would be delivered on Zoom. You'd get a recorded playback. My goal would be everyone gets the opportunity for some coaching on that call, and everyone gets the opportunity to learn from, others that are being coached on the call. So is that something that would be of interest to you? Let me know inside of chat, and also let me know what would you pay for that? And let's say it's monthly. You can cancel anytime. You can just join for 1 month and then you can be done, or it could be an ongoing renewal. Maybe I do an annual membership too. I'm just debating, whether this is something I want to offer and is this something that people would pay for? As reference, I do hourly rate LinkedIn coaching, and I mainly work with executives, directors, things like that. For an hourly rate, I charge $250. So just so you're aware, I'm not giving my time away for this, but I do want to be respectful that these are open to individuals who are in career transition, and it's a group coaching call. It's not a one-to-one coaching call. In the past, I have offered job seeker coaching sessions. I've done 30-minute calls for $40, and we've gotten a handful of people signing up for that. At one point I had them, I think it was 30-minute calls for $20, and I had a bunch of people signing up for those, but it was a lot. I record them, I send you the playback. So when it's all said and done, I'm spending probably 45 minutes per person. I'm not just spending the 30 minutes on the phone call. So I want to be kind of conscientious of my time value, and I want to feel the waters in terms of what would be the perceived value on your part. Is that something you'd even be interested in? And I'd probably, when I launch this, I would have a founding members rate, which would be the lowest ever you could get in on. And then in the future, if it's successful, we could grow that. So I'm just kind of curious if there's interest in that. I'll send this to you all through email as well. And I'll see if there's interest. And if you have any questions, let me know. Like, for example, how many on the call? David, I don't know yet. This is a really great question. Would that be something that would weigh in for you in terms of you would only be interested, but only if it's a group of 6 or less. Like, let me know. Would you only be interested if it was a small group on there? Or, you know, I would like it to be smaller group, and I could certainly launch different cohorts of that as well. Gary said, yes, if the price is low. So what does that mean? And Gary, in your mind, would you pay $20 a month? Would you pay $5 a month? Like, tell me what is reasonable. And I see price point is a big issue, and I totally get that. Someone says, someone's saying they're staying away from monthly payments, and I totally get that. Low to me means $20 a month. Cap the number of attendees. Absolutely. $50 to $100 per month, perhaps. So let me know if you are interested in that. And if you have any thoughts on structure, number of participants, cost, even the frequency, weekly, monthly, twice a month, you know, let me know what will you be of interest to that. So, and I'm looking at that as a new offering sometime during the year. And by the way, the Boot Camp with Brenda program will be relaunching again later in the year as well. All right, we are now back to the call. Let me stop the screen share here and let me bring it back to the full view into the gallery as again. Any other hands raised? I see Mary had a thumbs up. Mary, were you just giving a thumbs up? You didn't have any points on there? Okay. So as we start to wrap up our time here together, I want to remind you all of a few things. First, if you do see anyone on LinkedIn who has announced that they are out of work, I want you to make sure that you tag me in the post and just say something like Brenda Meller may have some resources that can help. So do check that out. Okay. Tag me in the post. I will reply back. It's kind of like you're winking to me and I'll wink back to invite them inside of the group. Make sure that you have joined our private unlisted LinkedIn group. That way you can find resources that we are sharing. You can find job postings inside the group. You can network and invite fellow job seekers to attend there as well. Let's see. Julia was just texting me. My phone blocked up, Julia. I can't see what it says. Finding the links to our calls. If you ever have issues finding the links to our calls, there's 2 things you can do. You can go to the flagpole. Remember, go to our LinkedIn group. Or the other thing that you could do really easily is just re-register yourself. So if you can't find the link to the call, just go back to this landing page. I'll put it in chat right now. mellermarketing.com/Friday VIP. Register again, and you'll get the Zoom link again. Even if you've registered already, you're not going to get double or triple or quadruple emails. You're only going to get one, right? Added in there. So there's no risk in re-registering again if you can't find it. Once these calls have started, I'm on here. I'm not going to be managing and monitoring email. So I want to make sure that I am helpful and a resource to all of you. All right. And we're going to do one last thing. We're going to do the job seeker mantra before we wrap up here today. This is completely optional, but if you would like to participate, I would like to invite you to come along with me, and we're going to do this mantra together. So this is the way that it works. I'm going to say the words. You're going to repeat them back to me. And we do this because it puts us in the right mindset during our job search. Okay. If you'd like to participate, here's what you're going to do. You're going to raise your right hand or your left hand. It can be either one. If you raised your left hand last week, use your right hand this week, or vice versa. It's not legally binding, so don't worry about, any of that. But this is just so you're getting, your mind is hearing, and you're like taking the oath for all of us. Okay. I want you to unmute yourself right now. Go ahead and unmute yourself. We're going to say the words together. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to say the line, and I'm going to point at the screen, and you're going to say it back to me. Okay. So I'm going to say it, and then you're going to say it back to the screen, to all of us. Okay. So here we go. This is the job seeker mantra. Here we go. This is temporary.
This is temporary.
This is
You're right.
temporary.
And I know some of you are going, this is goofy. I'm not doing this. Yes, you are. Just hold your hand up and unmute. It'll be fun. You'll see. Okay. I am awesome.
I
am
awesome.
Yeah, you are. I felt that this time. I want you to point to someone else and say, and you are awesome.
And you are awesome.
And you are awesome.
We're making everybody smile. Here we go. I am valuable.
I
am valuable.
Yes, you are. I will find another job.
I will find another job.
There you go. You got to believe that. Absolutely. The black hole isn't the only way.
The black
hole
isn't the only way.
Yes. I am in control of my future.
I am in
control of my future.
There you go. I said it a little bit fast, didn't I? Let me slow that down. And using LinkedIn can help to give me power.
And
using LinkedIn.
using LinkedIn. Power.
There you go. Plus, by attending today, I am a step ahead.
Plus,
By attending today,
I am a
you
step
are
ahead.
There you go. Give yourself a round of applause there. Thank you guys for participating in that. Go ahead and mute yourself as I give you some final reminders here. Why do we do this? Yeah, it seems a little goofy. I know it's goofy. It feels weird for me. And during the summer when my kids are sleeping in bed, they're like, why are you guys yelling? And I have people say it really loud. Why do there's so much negativity that you encounter when you are in job search mode, right? There's what's happening in your head. There's a lot of that, the negative self-talk stuff like that. There's what happens around you. There's your mood, it's going up, it's going down. I mean, all of these things, it's really important to have a positive mindset. So I want you to remember this is temporary. This is only a blip in your history. This is not going to be forever. This is just for until all of the planets align and you get that right opportunity that you're excited about and you get that job. So someday you're not going to be on the calls here anymore. Okay. You're not going to see me anymore. You're not going to see the others. So enjoy it while it lasts, my friend, because this is temporary. You are awesome and you are valuable. I want you to know that, because what happens when you are sometimes in career transition, you start to kind of replay things, don't you? And you're like, well, maybe I wasn't as good as I thought I was. Maybe I wasn't as smart. Maybe I did the wrong things. I made the wrong relationships. I didn't play the game right, whatever. And you start to kind of think in your head, maybe I'm not as smart, and imposter syndrome starts to creep in a little bit. I want you to remember that even if they take your paycheck away from you, they cannot take from you all the knowledge and insights that you've gained over the years. That stays in your brain. All the passion that you have for doing what you do, relationships with people, things like that, they cannot take that from you. Okay. And you take those with you wherever you go. Your next employer is going to be lucky to have you when they get you. And when you catch yourself saying, oh, I'm never going to find another job, I'm always going to be unemployed, I want you to stop yourself and say, I will find another job. Like, say it out loud to yourself, because what you tell your brain is going to find a way to make that happen. Okay. So say that in the positive, I will find another job, and get comfortable saying these affirmations. The black hole isn't the only way. I probably don't even need to describe what I'm talking about, right? The black hole of job search, applying to job upon job, never hearing back. And sometimes you get like the automated things. Sometimes you hear nothing at all. Or sometimes 2 years later, they'll say, and you're like, you think? I don't even remember applying for it, right? It can feel very soul sucking and energy, right? And it also makes you feel like you have no control over the situation. The black hole is not the only way. You do have control over your future, my friend. I want you to know that by being active on LinkedIn, by being on today's phone call, you're actually empowering yourself, and you're approaching this whole job search differently. So as we leave here today, I want to remind you that getting active on LinkedIn is going to help to increase your visibility. It's going to help people to be aware that you are looking for your next. It's going to bring people to your profile. You never know where that may lead. By the way, if you've never done a post announcing to people, or I would highly encourage you to do one, and just be positive. Tell people, here's what I'm looking for. You may say something like, you may or may not be aware, but I'm looking for my next position as a marketing director in Metro Detroit. If you're aware of any opportunities, or if you'd like to meet for a virtual coffee, message me or comment below. Okay. You'll get people going, oh, I didn't even know Brenda was looking for a job. Right. And they will comment back. If not to find a job for you, they might say, hey, let's jump on a call real quick. Maybe I can help you to brainstorm some things, or maybe they don't know about your situation and they may just want to catch up with you. So letting people know on LinkedIn is going to help you with that visibility and getting a jump start on your search process. All right. I think that is it for today. I'm not doing any giveaways or raffles today. Sometimes I do. Somebody said, are we doing anything today? No. But if you want to buy a copy of my book, you're certainly welcome to. I'll drop that link into chat real quick for you, since you asked about giveaways. I'm not going to give it away, but you can buy a copy of my book if you're interested in that, called Social Media Pie: How to Enjoy a Bigger Slice of LinkedIn. I think that was it for us for today. We do meet every Friday. If you've registered once, the link that you have is a recurring every Friday. And there's some similarities in what we do in terms of all-stars and introductions, questions and answers, but there's always going to be different topics. So if you enjoyed it today, we would love to have you come back and join us another time. And with that said, I wish you all a wonderful weekend. I hope that you enjoyed today. I'm going to stop the recording on Zoom, on YouTube right now. And